Council's Public Workshop. Today is November 7, 2018. The time is 7:31. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mail to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled to same as provided by law of a schedule, including the date and time of this meeting. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Knudsen? Here. Councilman Seaton?
Here.
Councilman Voigt?
Here.
Councilman Walsh?
Here.
Mayor Hache?
Here. Please stand for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join us in a moment of silence in honor of the brave men and women serving our nation's armed forces and as first responders. Thank you. All right, we'll open up with public comments, not to exceed 3 minutes per person.
Good evening. Charles Riley, 448 North Maple Avenue. At the October 10th Village Council meeting, Mayor Hache, you made the following statement regarding my statement 2 days earlier at the Board of Education meeting concerning the school budget, and I quote what you said. I was at the Board of Education meeting on Monday. And I will ask for a transcript. But I do remember Mr. Riley getting up and saying, also including about council members, not being qualified somehow to vote on the budget, but that the residents did not have the expertise or understanding of the complexities of the school budget to be able to vote on it. I provided each of you with a transcript of my statement 2 days earlier. And it's clear from that transcript that I did not say what you said I said on October 10th. I said just the opposite. I said people should learn about the budget and before they vote. And if they did that, obviously I must understand that they would understand how to vote on the budget if they learned about the budget. I would not tell people to learn about the budget if they could not understand it. Your statement, Mr. Hache, on October 10th displayed a reckless disregard for the truth. You should have stopped and said, as you would, that you want to review the transcript first. Instead, you decided to misrepresent what I said 2 days earlier. You even misrepresented what I said about the council members' responsibilities with respect to a budget vote, school budget vote. My comments concerning the village council members' responsibility is a matter that occurs after the vote, if there is a failed budget. After the vote, the council members are obliged to review the school budget line by line and to point out where they think there ought to be cuts in the budget. The school board does not have to accept those cuts, but it does have to accept the amount that is decided by the council. Your comments display for me the fact that you have no understanding, frankly, of your responsibilities with respect to a school budget vote.
Careful, Mr. Riley.
I'm sorry?
Careful. Please be careful.
I repeat, your comments display to me that you had no understanding of what your responsibilities are with respect to a defeated school budget. Imagine if I were to come to you and say, in 3 weeks' time, I'm going to review the village's operations and its budget, the police department, the water department, the fire department, the building department, the manager's office, and I'm going to point out to you where I think there ought to be cuts in 3 weeks' time, where I think maybe there are too many police in a certain patrol going on. I think you would say to me, well, Mr. Riley, you know, this council spent hours and hours on each of these departments and has reviewed the budget. I don't think you can do that in 3 weeks. And that was the thrust of my comments with respect to the council members' responsibilities. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. The election is over. Several weeks ago, I came before this council and expressed my concern about the number of signs that had been placed unlawfully between the sidewalk and the curb. I'd like to thank the manager, who apparently immediately contacted the police department and asked them to start enforcing that. And I'd especially like to thank the police department's Captain William Amoruso, who went out of his way to make sure that all the members of the department knew that those signs that were placed between the curb and the sidewalk needed to come down. And he personally took steps when I notified him of instances where I saw it to go out in his own car and to speak to residents and tell them about this. It's come to my attention, however, that with respect to the village code, although there is an ordinance that prohibits election signs from being placed in that area and garage sale signs from being placed in that area, there is no ordinance in place that concerns any other type of temporary sign that is placed in the public right-of-way. And I would ask the council at this time to consider introducing and approving an ordinance that would prohibit any temporary signs from being placed between the curb and the sidewalk or in public right-of-ways. As we know, those signs present a hazard to pedestrians and drivers, and I don't think there's a place for them anywhere in Ridgewood, regardless of what the sign is for. So at some point in time, if you could ask your attorney to take a look at our code, and if there is no such ordinance that prohibits temporary signs of any nature, to adopt such an ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. We'll close public comments. I'll just address the statements that were made regarding my comments about what was said at a Board of Ed meeting. Context is everything. The context of the comments from Mr. Riley at the Board of Ed meeting were regarding whether or not the vote should be restored, the budget vote, to be put back to the residents. And that's what Mr. Riley went on to say, that people should learn, and we somehow don't have the expertise to learn these things. That was my interpretation of what you said. It was my interpretation. I did not quote you, and nor did I offer to look at the school budget in 3 weeks' time or go through line by line of what it was that the school budget would entail. Never once. And if you made that offer to us, that you would help us look at the budget and see, in what ways we can work to improve it, I would say thank you, and I would welcome the opportunity to get your help on doing that. So with that, we go to managers' reports.
Okay, I just want to say Election Day in Ridgewood yesterday was very active. Over 53% of the registered voters turned out for yesterday's election. This percentage does not include mail-in or provisional ballots. We won't have those numbers probably until sometime next week. Leaf collection continues and is on schedule. The leaf placement schedule was printed on a yellow postcard and mailed to each Ridgewood household. If you missed this postcard with a list of the leaf season placement schedule for your area, you can find the schedule on our website, ridgewoodnj.net. You can go under My Village Services, put in your address, and it will bring up when you can place your leaves. Please remember you can bag leaves in biodegradable bags and place them between the curb and the sidewalk at any time. You can also bring leaves to the recycling center for disposal. Just remember that leaves may not be placed in plastic bags. Veterans Day will be observed at a ceremony on Sunday, November 11th at 2 p.m. in Memorial Park at Van Ness Square. American Legion Post number 53 sponsors this event. This is a change to what was printed in the 2018 village calendar. The Spirit of America's story, The Wall, is a traveling exhibit commemorating our country's fight for freedom from 1775 to the present day, which is free to all attendees. The Wall is a 70-foot traveling exhibit that commemorates through images a timeline of the Revolutionary War to the War on Terrorism, and is comprised of 10 connected pieces of artwork that stand 92 inches tall and 100 feet long. This exhibit is hosted by the Ridgewood, New Jersey American Legion Post number 53 with major support from Rotary District 7490 and the Rotary Club of Ridgewood AM, and is open from 10 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. from Monday, November 12th through Sunday, November 18th, with the opening ceremony on Monday, November 12th at 4 p.m. and the closing ceremony on November 18th at 4 p.m. It's being held at the Bethlehem Lutheran Church, 155 Linwood Avenue here in Ridgewood. The Veterans Day holiday will be observed on Monday, November 12th with the closure of all village offices on that date. There will be no sanitation or recycling collection, and the recycling center will also be closed. Upcoming events in Ridgewood: tomorrow, November 8th, the Conservancy for Public Lands is sponsoring a New Jersey Audubon presentation of reptiles of northern New Jersey for grades K to 5 at the Village Hall Youth Center. Admission is $5. Reservations are suggested or in person at the stable. Interfaith Thanksgiving service is Tuesday, November 20th at 7:30 p.m. at Temple Israel. This change of location is to show solidarity with the Jewish community given recent events and is different from the notice in the 2018 village calendar. Thanksgiving holiday, November 22nd and 23rd. Village offices will be closed in observance of this holiday. There will be no sanitation or recycling collection on November 22nd. However, they will pick up on November 23rd. The Village Recycling Center will be open Saturday, November 24th. Winterfest, sponsored by the Ridgewood Guild, is scheduled for Saturday, November 24th from noon to 3 p.m. at Memorial Park at Van Ness Square. Free events includes ice sculpture, musicians, horse-drawn wagon, trackless train rides, a tent of vendors, and more. Attendees are encouraged to shop local. The menorah lighting will be December 2nd. December 2nd at 5:30 p.m., the first night of Hanukkah, and another candle will be lit each night of Hanukkah. The menorah is located at the corner of East Ridgewood Avenue across from Raymond's Restaurant, right by Memorial Park at Van Ness Square. I also want to remind everyone of the upcoming date for downtown for the holidays. This year, it will be on Friday, November 30th. The tree lighting takes place from 5:30 to 9 with holiday music and entertainment along East Ridgewood Avenue, including a trackless train for kids to ride, weather permitting, and Santa in Memorial Park at Van Ness Square from 7 to 7:45 p.m. Entertainment on stage and lighting the Christmas tree and music and entertainment will continue until 9 p.m. That's it.
All right. Council reports. Actually, no, but let's start. Let's reverse the order.
Thank you, Mayor. You always go first. Hey, you sure? I mean, I can... No, go ahead. I don't want to confuse people. Thank you, by the way. So the Community Center Advisory Board meeting, we met on the 25th of November. A couple of highlighted items, and I know you've mentioned this, Mayor, before. On the 11th at 4:30 p.m. in Paramus Church is the Ridgewood Elder Thanksgiving dinner, sponsored by Age Friendly Ridgewood, Health Barn, and Ridgewood Parks and Recreation. So just FYI on that. There have been a couple of events that have taken place at Westside Presbyterian. There's a gentleman named Dr. Bill Thomas. He had on the 4th. It deals with the age-friendly kind of bent. Westside Presbyterian on the 4th talked about combating loneliness with Dr. Bill Thomas. Tonight from 6 to 8:30, he will also be talking about the 4 types of ageism at Westside Presbyterian. Again, this is going to be with Bill Thomas. He's a very engaging speaker on what happens with the elderly. The last thing is age-friendly. I received a final installment of the Taub Foundation grant of $75,000, which will be used in the community and with the elderly. So that's my report. Thank you.
So I don't have any committee reports, but I'm just going to also mention on November 17th at Valleau Cemetery, we take down all of the flags that we put up in May. So anybody is welcome to join at 9 a.m. On Saturday the 17th. It usually takes us not even a quarter of the time that it takes to put all the flags in, and it's just pick up the flags, and then the American Legion properly destroys the flags. That's all I had.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Okay, great, thank you. Clergy Council met Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. Downstairs. At the meeting, our special guest Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. was Superintendent of the Ridgewood Public Schools, Dan Fishbein. Dr. Fishbein spoke to the group about bullying in the district and initiatives, how they combat bullying and how things are handled, whether they're off-campus incidents or on campus, and what the threshold is for when the school becomes involved. He also spoke, we spoke about not just student bullying, but also the type of adult bullying behavior we all tend to see on social media, and how the school takes the initiative to even reach out to parents to remind them that their children read what they write and observe their behavior and emulate their behavior. And also he spoke at length about the Ridgewood Public School open campus policy, which has garnered a tremendous amount of attention as of late due to the opening up of the open campus to freshmen, and the type, how that works with sleep-ins, and when you have 80-minute periods and you have back-to-back, and where students may or may not go during that time, and how they manage the security to make sure that the students are still safe and walking in and out of the school, especially the high school. So it was an interesting meeting, and thanks to Dr. Fishbein for showing up so early in the morning and talking about those issues with us. Planning Board, actually Master Plan Advisory Committee met last night at 6 p.m. We're continuing with our visionridgewood.org, the visioning process, which is the precursor to our master plan project. That is going to go full throttle in a matter of this weekend, actually. So I think we have right now, without any advertising, publicity, or really outreach, we've had over 100 participants taking surveys and engaging, and we're anticipating that we will have, I believe, a 30% interaction with our residents and outreach. So we're hoping that we'll get those kind of numbers. Also, Planning Board met last night. We had 2 applications we heard. Both were subdivisions. One was a little bit more complex than the other. One more complex application was denied, and the other very simple subdivision application was approved by the board. And let's see what else. Tomorrow night, HPC meets, 8 p.m., right downstairs in the garden room. 1 application, I think it's Poke Bowl. I'm not quite certain what that is, but it's a simple sign application, and I guess that's a new business down in the Central Business District. And finally, I just want to touch base on the Thanksgiving service, which has been moved to Temple Israel, and Rabbi Fine is, truly grateful for how everyone has embraced the Jewish community. The one thing that is a little bit of a concern is that in the past, the food has been brought in by everyone, but because it's the temple, the food has to be kosher, and so now that has to be paid through a budget. And so anybody interested in donating for the food for that particular service can just make a check payable to Temple Israel, attention Rabbi Fine, and just make a little note in that memo that it's for the Thanksgiving service food. And that's my report. Yes, it's your turn.
Thank you, Mayor. I also don't have any committee reports. I just wanted to thank everybody who was involved in Walktoberfest and the Ridgewood Walks programs. I did 2 tours. One was at the stable and Graydon, and I'd like to thank Cynthia Hallaby and Jeannie Johnson, who helped with the sensory butterfly garden and portion of that tour. And I'd especially like to thank village engineer Chris Rutheshauser, who gave us a guided tour of the village's water pollution control facility. He made the tour and the adventure through the process of sewage treatment very exciting and informative. So I'd really like to thank him for that. It was a great tour, and that's my report.
I want to thank Councilman Seaton for jumping in and taking over, heading up that tour for me as well, because we wound up in court that day and got tied up. So thank you.
Anytime.
Nothing much from the committees. Just tomorrow, CBDAC meets downstairs in the garden room, 8:30 in the morning. Next Saturday, November 10th, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., we'll have the second Meet the Mayor sessions across the hall here in the caucus room from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. So all are invited and welcome. And with that, we go into discussion items.
Okay, let me just mention for the Meet the Mayor, if you wish to meet with the mayor, please call the clerk's office for an appointment, and we can set you up with that. Thank you. So our first discussion item is under budget. This is the annual resolution transferring for budget transfers. It transfers funds from departments with additional funds to those departments which need additional funds. So I don't know if anyone has any questions. This is, again, what we do beginning in November and going through the next couple months. The next item is under operations. This is the hearing for the pre-qualification of bidders for the Zabriskie-Shedler House project. This special public hearing is for the exterior restoration and interior renovation of the Zabriskie-Shedler House, and it's for the qualifications required for prospective bidders. Only those bidders who have qualified for this work will be considered for this bid. All work done will be required to conform to the U.S. Secretary of the Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties, and is further subject to review by the New Jersey Historic Preservation Office and Bergen County Historic Preservation Advisory Board. The village will be seeking experienced historic restoration general contractors. Funding for this project will be provided jointly by the Village of Ridgewood and the Bergen County Historic Preservation Trust Fund through grants. The project will consist of restoration of wood shingle roofing and copper flashings, restoration of wood siding, trim, soffits, and cornices, carpentry, repair, installation of new gutters and leaders, repair and rebuilding of masonry chimneys, plaster restoration, finished carpentry, including flooring, trim, windows and doors, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical upgrades, and surface preparation and finishing painting of the exterior and interior. So we will be holding that hearing in the special public meeting this evening. And the last item under operations is a liquor license renewal for Ridgewood Lodge number 1455, which is the Elks Club. They had to receive a special ruling from the director of the Division of Alcoholic Beverage Control due to the fact that the license has been inactive for 2 years. That special ruling just came through. So this is their renewal actually from July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2019. So this is our final liquor license that had to be approved for renewal, and so we'll consider that as well in the special public meeting. So I just need a motion, yep.
I'll make a motion to convene this special public
Second.
meeting.
Knutson?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
Hache?
Yes. Village of Ridgewood Village Council, special public meeting. Call this meeting to order. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mail to the Ridgewood News, a record, and by submission to all persons entitled to same. As provided by law, of a schedule including date and time of this meeting. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Knutson?
Here.
Councilman Seaton?
Here.
Councilman Voigt?
Here.
Councilwoman Walsh?
Here.
Mayor Hache?
Here.
So the first item is the public hearing on the pre-qualification regulations for the prospective bidders for the exterior restoration and interior rehabilitation at the Zabriskie-Shedler House.
The pre-qualification regulations for prospective bidders for the exterior restoration and interior rehabilitation at the Zabriskie-Shedler House are being considered this evening. Establishing the pre-qualification regulations for prospective bidders is required due to the fact that the village is receiving grant funding for this project from the Bergen County Historic Preservation Trust Fund. The public hearing this evening is specifically on the pre-qualification regulations for the exterior restoration and interior rehabilitation of the Zabriskie-Shedler House, and the Village Council will only listen to comments from the public specifically on these pre-qualification regulations for this project. The public hearing is now open. Okay, I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Knutson?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
Hache?
Yes.
I'll read the resolution in full. Resolution 18-323. Whereas pursuant to NJSA 40A:11-25, Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood may establish reasonable regulations appropriate for controlling the qualifications of prospective bidders upon contracts to be awarded by the Village of Ridgewood. And whereas the Village of Ridgewood is required to establish pre-qualification regulations for projects financially assisted by the Bergen County Historic Preservation Trust Fund. Whereas the Village of Ridgewood seeks such financial assistance in connection with the exterior restoration and interior rehabilitation of the Zabriskie-Shedler House, and whereas contractor pre-qualification regulations have been promulgated in connection with the exterior restoration and interior rehabilitation of the Zabriskie-Shedler House, and whereas the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood has conducted a public hearing and has determined that it is in the best interest of the Village of Ridgewood to establish reasonable regulations appropriate for controlling the qualification of prospective bidders in connection with the exterior restoration and interior rehabilitation of the Zabriskie-Shedler House. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood in the County of Bergen and the State of New Jersey that the pre-qualification regulations attached hereto are hereby adopted for utilization in connection with the bid for the exterior restoration and interior rehabilitation for the Zabriskie-Shedler House. Be it further resolved that the implementation of the contractor pre-qualification regulations is subject to review and approval of the Director of the Division of Local Government Services, and the village clerk is hereby authorized to file with the Director of the Division of Local Government Services proposed regulations, a true copy of this resolution, a true copy of the minutes from the public hearing, copies of the 2 newspaper legal advertisements for this public hearing, and a completed certified standard certification form. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Knudsen?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Boyd?
Again, I'm all for sustaining and enhancing the history of our village, but not on the backs of the residents. And until we have a concrete plan on how this is going to get paid for, besides having us pay for it, I can't endorse this, so no.
That's a no.
That's a no, yeah.
Walsh?
Yes.
Ashe?
Yes. Moving on to ordinances. I move the clerk read ordinance 3683 by title and second reading, and the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Knudsen?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Boyd?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
Ashe?
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3683?
An ordinance authorizing the purchase and acquisition of certain real property known as Block 3607, Lot 41 in the Village of Ridgewood, commonly known as 111 North Maple Avenue by Ridgewood Water.
Public hearing is now open. Good evening again.
Good evening, Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. I'm just curious, does the renewal of the liquor license, which is existing at the premises you're buying, is there any connection between your purchase of the property and the renewal of the liquor license? I'm not sure why the liquor license is being renewed if the village, Ridgewood Water, is purchasing the property, or is Ridgewood Water also purchasing the liquor license along with the property?
Ridgewood Water is going to be a
If
happy
you want,
place.
Thank you.
I'll answer that. They have to renew it in order to sell it. And the Elks Club has to renew it first, because it can't be sold unless it's renewed. So in order for the Elks Club to sell it privately to whoever may be buying it, they have to renew it first.
And we're not buying it.
We are not
Okay,
buying
so that was my question. The
No,
village is
we're
not purchasing the liquor license along with the
it. No, we're not.
It's not
premises?
attached to the property, no.
Yeah, it's just a
No.
procedural thing, right?
Okay, thank you very much.
Anybody else? I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Knudsen?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Boyd?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
Ashe?
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3683 be adopted on second reading and final publication is required by law.
Second.
Knudsen?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Boyd?
No.
Walsh?
No.
Ashe?
Yes. I move the clerk read ordinance 3684 by title and second reading, that the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Knudsen?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Boyd?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
Ashe?
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3684?
An ordinance authorizing the purchase and acquisition of certain real property known as Block 2703, Lot 8 in the Village of Ridgewood, commonly known as 451 Goffle Road by Ridgewood Water.
The public hearing is now open.
Good evening again, Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. It is my understanding that this property is being purchased by Ridgewood Water to conduct water quality testing at the site. Is that correct? No?
I'll try and answer that. Just so for the record, Richard Calby, who's the Water Utility Director, is not here tonight. But the consideration for the purchase of this property is to be kind of a unifying site for the different wells in that area that may need to be treated or that do need to be treated because of different PFOS and PFOA levels that are in those wells. So.
I don't know what that means. Is it going to be, I had thought that they were going to purchase this because there's a well next door and they wanted to purchase this in order to do water quality testing.
No, it's going to be, I think the purpose of it is to be a treatment location
yes.
for not only the well that's adjacent to it, but for other wells in that area.
Okay. The reason I ask this is my concern that that facility is right next to the Safeway, or I don't know what, it used to be a Hess. It's right next to a gas station. So I just question the logic of putting a facility or purchasing a property that's going to be used for water treatment that is right next to a gas station that are typically a major pollutant.
Well, I don't know about it typically being a major pollutant, but we've had a well there for a long time. So this is right adjacent to the well, and the treatment is basically above ground in a similar manner that we're going to do with the car well over here on Glen, and hopefully unify the treatment for all the different wells that are in that area.
Okay, so everything's going to be above ground as opposed to being...
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. I don't know all the details, but, you know, there's no recognized pollutant coming from the Hess station that's there right now. Could that have been? It might be in the future. The well is tested regularly, and there hasn't been any sign of any pollution coming from that particular site that I'm aware of. So maybe Mr. Calby could fill you in a little bit better about that.
Thank you very much.
Well, I could probably,
Yeah,
I remember some details about that too, so I could probably help out at least a little bit. I'll take a crack at it. So I think that well's been shut down for a number of years because of some volatile organic compounds, VOCs, that have been in it. And the way the property is configured right now, we can't build like a filtration treatment system on the existing property. There's just not enough room. So this little house is on the adjacent property, so that would be enough room to build a treatment center for that well, so we could bring that well back online, and then there's other wells in the area that we could probably pipe to that filtration system that gets built on the property to clean those out too.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's pretty much explained in the ordinance itself.
Anybody else? I move the public hearing be closed.
Second?
Knutson.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voigt.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Hache.
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3684 be adopted on second reading and final publication is required by law.
Second?
Knutson.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voigt.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Hache.
Yes. I move the clerk read ordinance 3685 by title on second reading, that the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Knutson.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voigt.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Hache.
Yes. Will the clerk please read title of ordinance 3685?
Bond ordinance providing for the acquisition of property by the water utility in and by the village of Ridgewood in the county of Bergen, New Jersey, appropriating $260,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $260,000 bonds or notes of the village to finance the cost thereof.
Public hearing is now open. I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Knutson.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voigt.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Hache.
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3685 be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
Second.
Knutson.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voigt.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Hache.
Yes. I move the clerk read ordinance 3686 by title on second reading, that the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Knutson.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voigt.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Hache.
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3686?
An ordinance of the Village of Ridgewood amending provisions the provisions in Chapter 190, Land Use and Development concerning the permitted uses in the B1 and B2 business districts.
The public hearing is now open. I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Knudsen,
Yes.
Sedin,
Yes.
Voigt,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Hache.
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3686 be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
Second.
Knudsen,
Yes.
Sedin,
Yes.
Voigt,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Hache.
Yes. Have a motion to adjourn special public.
No, I have,
No, no, no resolutions.
I have two resolutions on the consent agenda.
Can we break these out? Can you, 18-324?
What was the question?
I just wanted to break them out. Yeah. So they could be, 18-324 could be read in full.
Okay. 18-324,
Yeah, it has to be read in full.
okay, very good. Whereas the liquor license held by Ridgewood Lodge, number 1455 BPOE, has been a pocket license with no licensed premises for more than 2 license terms. And whereas when a liquor license is inactive for 2 license terms, the owner of said liquor license must petition the Director of Alcoholic Beverage Control, ABC, in order to obtain a special ruling to allow for the annual renewal of the liquor license. And whereas Ridgewood Lodge, number 1455 BPOE, has petitioned the Director of ABC to request that their pocket liquor license be renewed, and the Director of ABC has indicated that Ridgewood Lodge, number 1455 BPOE, has established good cause in accordance with the statutory requirements for renewal of the liquor license. And whereas the Director of ABC has granted his approval to renew the liquor license held by Ridgewood Lodge, number 1455 BPOE, for the 2018-2019 license term, whereas the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood concurs with the special ruling granted by the Director of ABC to Ridgewood Lodge, number 1455 BPOE, now therefore be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood hereby renews the liquor license as hereinafter described in Schedule A for the year July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019 to the following applicant at the premises indicated below. Schedule A, license number 0251-33-006-001, license location Ridgewood Lodge, number 1455 BPOE, number license premises, no license premises rather. Fee $2,500, and be it further resolved that the village clerk shall retain the liquor license until such time as it is cited at an actual premise. So I need a first motion and a second motion.
So moved.
Second.
Knudsen,
Yes.
Sedin,
Yes.
Voigt,
No.
Walsh,
No.
Yes.
Hache. And 18-325, the title of that is Approved 2018 Budget Transfers. No.
Okay. Do you,
And the first on that?
so moved.
Second.
Knudsen,
Yes.
Sedin,
Yes.
Voigt,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Hache.
Yes.
Okay. And I need a motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
Knudsen,
Yes.
Sedin,
Yes.
Voigt,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Hache.
Yes.
Okay, so our first presentation this evening is on the Hudson Street parking garage by Epic, who is the overall contractor. Tim Haas and Bowler Engineering, I believe, are here as well. So if you gentlemen will come up, I know we have a PowerPoint presentation at this time. And just identify yourself before speaking, thank you.
Hi, I am Bill Costello of Epic Management. On behalf of the Epic, Haas, and Bowler team, we're happy to be here tonight to give you an update of where we are with the design process. Everything's proceeding as we originally scheduled, so we're happy to say that. We made a lot of progress. In a moment, I'm going to ask Ben Crowder of Boulder Engineering to give you an update on the civil aspect and civil design of the project, where they are. And then Mike App, the project architect, will give you a presentation on the garage itself, on you know, how it looks, how it's all rolling out. Before I do, I'd like to introduce a colleague of mine, Mike Tartaglia, who's going to be working on the project with me. In addition to being a registered architect and lead accredited professional, Mike has probably 25 years experience on the construction side, and Mike and I have worked together over 20 years. So a real valued member, he'll be a member of our team, and I welcome him here tonight. So now, Mike, you can come sit over here with us. Yeah. So, okay. So I'd like to call Ben up to give his presentation, and then Mike, and after that point, if there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. Okay.
Is it in there?
Who does it?
Oh, there we go. Federici looks good.
Good evening, Council. Just to reintroduce myself, Ben Crowder, Bowler Engineering, project manager. We're the site civil engineer on the EPIC design build team for your Hudson Street garage. Past 4 weeks, 5-6 weeks have been really busy from a civil perspective. Just to give you an update, Mike from Tim Haas is going to have most of the presentation on the actual garage structure. But below grade, surrounding the site, the last 4 or 5 weeks, we've obtained an updated survey of the property that is included in the PowerPoint. And what that's allowed us to do is look into some of the conditions that we described several months ago when we were before you initially, meaning the access easement to the lot to the north of the Hudson Street lot, as well as also getting additional topography on that lot just to the north behind those businesses on East Ridgewood Avenue to assess drainage conditions and make sure that stormwater, once the garage is built, can safely continue and be connected back to Hudson Street. As the village may recall, you did do a limited geotechnical investigation back in November of 2015 with your consultant. It was a very limited investigation that consisted only of 5 borings scattered throughout the property. So over the past 3 to 4 weeks, we actually completed our supplemental geotechnical investigation, which was necessary in helping the Tim Haas team begin designing the structural slab and foundation for the garage. Just as of Friday, the geotechnical investigation was completed. We do believe that the garage can, based on the findings and the 17 borings that we actually did in the field on the lot, can actually be supported on conventional shallow foundations and is not anticipated to need any type of deep foundation improvement. That's preliminary information. It's certainly subject to design of the foundation, which is just starting now that we have those findings, but I definitely wanted to update you on that front. And certainly, you know, before I turn it over to Mike, I wanted to just say thank you to the village for helping us coordinate access to that lot. I do this a lot from a geotechnical perspective, and getting access to the lot, a busy lot, and having that seamless investigation ongoing with our drilling rig and doing those borings on a very active lot is much appreciated for our team, help keeping the design progressing forward for us. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike App with Tim Haas, and he's going to kind of update you more on the architecture and the design changes and presentation of the garage itself.
I just need you to use the microphone, please. Yes.
Happy to be here again. Good seeing you all. As Ben mentioned, there's been a lot of work on his side. There's been some work on our side as well. We're happy to hear that he has been able to complete some phase of his, because this allows now my structural team to get started in earnest now that we actually know what's happening with the soil itself. And so that process plus this early design process coming somewhat to some fruition here is going to be helpful for us, because we'll be able to then engage our entire structural team and get that portion of the work going, which is really critical for us, because if we can complete a structural package, which is primarily the precast of the garage, that will allow Epic then to start looking at getting some type of package out to contractors that do precast work, which has a lead time, and Bill can speak to that. So tonight's goal for me is to express to you some of the revisions and changes that we've been making, the evolution of your design, and why we are where we are. When we came last time, there were some comments that we heard on the design itself, as well as when we met with your historical commission, and those things we took back with us to make some changes. And we've also done, I would say, probably 50% of our code analysis, so we are not complete with that, but we have a very good handle on what that is and what that means to us now from a code standpoint. And those things have had some impacts to us. So to explain, this is our plan. You all are familiar with the general layout of that and the general function of the vehicle circulation and pedestrian circulation. One area that has changed is the area that's in blue, which is our main elevator and stair lobby, and I have an area that's blown up here. So this shows you what our previous design was and what our current design is. Previously, we were trying to put the elevator and stair into one component to try to make that a little smaller if we could do that. That did have some code implications, as well as from a safety and security standpoint, it was really not allowing us to do the type of passive security that we would normally recommend. So in the current layout, which is what you see on the right-hand side, this allows us to put more glass actually on Broad Street, which will allow not only from a wayfinding standpoint, if someone gets out of their car and goes to the elevator lobby, they get an understanding of, they know where they're going, but also from a security standpoint, if someone is in that stairwell or that lobby or that elevator, a police officer can see them from the street. And so it's a much safer condition. So this is what we would normally recommend. So this is why we want to make this change. So that's what you see as bullet number 1 there. Bullet number 2 is that we did slightly reorganize the ADA spaces. We just felt this provided a little bit better entrance to that lobby space. If you were on foot, you don't have to actually kind of, shimmy between cars. And then number 3, this addresses the corner, and you'll see this when we start talking about the elevations, but in the corner piece, there was some concern that it looked like it should have been an entry point, but it was not an entry point. We have now made that an entry point. So there is a possibility that if you're on foot and you want to enter the garage at the corner, you can do so. This next slide just shows those upper levels, the typical and the top tier. And again, the biggest change here is that elevator and stair lobby has gotten a little different. So this is our overall elevation on the south facade and the west facade, and the small one there is our southwest elevation, which is that corner, the diagonal wall. Again, we're still taking design cues from some of the other buildings here in Ridgewood. One of the things that I'd like to point out, though, which we'll see in the blow-up, is that tower has changed, and you'll see that the corner has changed as well. Since we're on this slide about the tower, let me explain our thinking here. Again, because we are separating the stair and elevator and are allowing those to change a little bit and turn, we're able to get glass into those, which we think is a good advancement in the design. It does, however, change this position of the artwork that we had talked about previously, and we'll get to that. So that's bullet number 1, is that we've reconfigured that. That changes the massing a little bit, but we think that that's actually been a good change as well. That, I think, provides a slightly more interesting and layered type of facade at that point. We have, and so again, that's number 3, that it's a little bit more layered and detailed. The corner piece is probably the most significant change here. And again, that was a response to what we heard from both both this group, but as well as the Historic Commission. And we felt like that the corner actually provided a pretty good opportunity for some other things. So bullet number 1 says we revised the shape of the coping. I think there was just some thought that maybe that could be something different, and we felt that maybe it shouldn't be that shape. It would just simplify it, so that's what we did. That also allowed us to pull the height down on that. The original coping would have been around 12 feet, which if you're inside the garage, a 12-foot wall would have felt pretty tall. It is now down to 8 feet, and that is really in relationship to some of the other, like the lobby spaces, and some of those will have, you know, a roof over them as well, and that sort of sets that height. One thing that was requested was that we put the garage name, and we felt like this was the right place to do that, so that's what you see there for number 3. Number 4, gives the corner more interest from a visual standpoint. As I've mentioned in a couple of my other visits here, I think that your corner conditions in Ridgewood make Ridgewood really special from an architectural standpoint. And so this intersection deserves that as well. So I think we have, with layering, and really what we're doing here, this is a little bit of a trick with precast construction, but we're able to do a lot of recessing and having things project, and so it's pretty much concrete doing all this work. There's really not a lot of what I would call added stuff that's stuck on. It's really the concrete doing it, which is more typical almost of how stone construction is as well. Number 5, we've moved the artwork. And again, it's my feeling that it's going to be a special intersection, and with the other development that you have happening further south on Broad Street, there will be, I think, more traffic, especially more pedestrian traffic walking up and down Broad at this point. So I think it makes it a much more interesting place. The sculpture that we have saved from the previous fire station, we've also located on this corner, and that's going to be down at ground level. So we think that's going to be kind of an interesting little spot. That's where the sidewalk turns, so that you have a nice rounded sidewalk area there. You'll have that sculpture, so people will actually be able to see it, almost touch it, walk around it, right? I think that it's not shown here, but I think there could even be a small plaque or something that describes the old fire station that was here, something, give a real historical context to it. Number 7, created the openings. So what we're depicting there is that you would actually be able to walk around on either side of that sculpture. If you can imagine that that's mounted to a panel that is in the center of that opening, and you can either walk on the left or right-hand side of it to get into the garage. For the main body of the garage, this evolution has been a little less significant, I guess, but I'll describe some of the changes that we made. So number 1, reconfigure the openings. I think the double arch that we had before was maybe a little bit much, and it kind of took away from the specialness. So by just eliminating one of the arches, it actually makes the remaining arch a little more special. So that was just a simple move to do that. And so by doing that, I just put in some small punched openings. Number 2, simplified the ornamental security fencing. As we continue to look at this, and sometimes this is one of those things that you see when you look at it over and over again for a month or so, it just appeared to be too busy, and so we felt like if we could calm it down or quiet it down a little bit by simplifying that ornamental fence, that's what we wanted to do, so we thought that was successful. Number 3 was to make that portion, the openings, more uniform. And again, one of the things that we're trying to do is calm it down, but in a sense, because what we're really presenting here is a 1- and 2-story building that then has sort of a backdrop, we wanted that backdrop to be pretty simple, and so that's what we're doing there. Number 4, we lowered the awnings. So if you see on the diagram there where the little 4 button is, those original awnings were at about 13 feet. That's because that's where the opening was, but there's nothing wrong with pushing that down. I mean, that's what we have in a lot of facilities, where you have a transom and a door and so on. You can do this. So we did push them down. They are now down at 8 feet, which is more typical of where you would have an awning, especially, you know, for rain. When it's too high, it's really not doing much. Number 5, we increased the detailing at the coping. So before we had a much simpler type of coping. We think that just adding a little more detail to that, again, is really just a trick with precast concrete. It's something we can do very easily, but it visually will add, it's just another layer of refinement to our design. These two elevations are the east and the north elevations. Because these have such close proximity to those other buildings, and they're really the back, if we could call them that, the back of the building. These are much, much simpler than the west and south facades. On the east there, we have an open garage type, normal garage type construction on the left-hand side of that. On the right-hand side, though, it is a solid type of wall. And the reason for that is that the property line actually jogs toward our garage. Because it jogs closer than 10 feet, and that 10-foot line is what is really the magic number for us. Because it jogs closer than 10 feet, that starts to trigger some code implications. At this location, it's actually only 2'8". Anything less than 5 feet would require us to be solid. So that's why we're solid right now. We are still 10 feet off of what could be considered the building face, but it's not about the building face, it's about the lot line. And since the lot line jogs, we have to respond to that. So that's what you're seeing happening there. On the lower facade there, the north elevation, we are just over 5 feet away. Anything between 5 and 10 feet allows us to be 10% open. Anything above 10, we would be golden, right? It would be really open, but it's not. So in this case, we've really had to pick and choose where those openings are. We know that we have to maintain the easement from Hudson through to the back parking lot. So that's what you're seeing there happening on the left-hand side at column line 6. That's the opening coming through from Hudson. But the rest of the building then is pretty solid. We think that there are some options here in terms of how do you address a solid wall. We're currently showing a lot of horizontal type of reveals. There will be some vertical reveals as well where panels come together. We could do more here if that's something that you would desire. So if you would like to see a little more of that broken up, we can certainly do that with more reveals. We could do that with some color as well. It kind of depends on what your opinion is. Again, we're facing that, the backside of most of those other businesses, trash dumpsters and whatever, so we felt like it could be a simpler facade. I just wanted to show this again. We've seen this slide before, but this will help explain some of those materials that we're talking about. So again, we believe that most of that base, what I would call that first floor or the second floor of the garage, are going to have that stone type of finish to it. But there are some picture frames basically that happen around some of these windows, or you have the lintels and sills that happen on these windows, and those will all be more of a smooth finish to them. The area that's above, so it's actually the third and fourth stories of the garage, those would be fairly smooth, but I think we're planning on at this moment doing some sandblasting and things so that it won't be just plain concrete. It will actually have a finish where you'll see some aggregate in it. There's a slide there kind of giving an example of what that ornamental fencing looks like, examples of some of the lighting that we think is probably appropriate. There's some other buildings here in Ridgewood that use that kind of gooseneck fixture like that. And then that last picture there is really showing how we would like to address those lobby spaces so that there's some wayfinding characteristics. Oh, yeah. A little difficult to see at this scale. In this diagram, on the right-hand image, there is going to be small rails. If you see where the 3 button is there, those windows, the code requires that you have 3'6" barrier for pedestrians. It's only 2'9" for cars. But in this case, because we're working so hard to keep our natural ventilation, we are going to lower those below 3'6". To do that, we then have to put a railing in. So they're actually, like I said, it's a little difficult at this scale, but that is actually another change that you see from the left to the right, is that that sill there has lowered just slightly, and that there would then be somewhat like a handrail type of structure that would be there to provide that pedestrian protection. We don't do that everywhere, but we have done that really on like every other facade panel, if you will. Again, just to give some interest, so it's not happening everywhere, but we do need that to maintain this natural ventilation that we're striving for.
One thing that I'll just comment on, and one of the next phases, not the next, but is looking at colors getting precast to start doing mock-ups.
Right. Yeah, so tonight's discussion really, Jim's reminding me about colors and things. Tonight's discussion is really to talk a little more about the form of this thing and make sure that everyone is happy with our form. That allows our structural team to start moving forward, where they know what they're trying to, calculate loads on and so on. If everyone is okay with this, really our next step then is to start to talk about these finishes in a little bit deeper way, such as color. And as you all can imagine, just like anything, they can make concrete in just about any color you want. So we'll need to talk about that a little bit, and it may even be valuable for us if we can get a larger sample and bring that to you, or if some of you all would even like to take a trip, we could probably find someone that would let us get on their site and show us how they make concrete, which might be kind of fun for you. So that would be something that we'd want to look at, is what our color palette might want to be. That'll give you a chance to see some of these things, the textures that they can create. And then obviously, like things like the awnings that we're showing here, that stuff is much later in the process. That's just paint, so we can figure out what those colors are. But there will be a color palette that we'll want to develop, where we're showing the color for the precast itself, the awnings, the fences. We'll have to look at some light fixtures. There'll be lots of little things that we'll look at. There'll be some detail work, but that stuff is, that's really probably in this next phase, frankly. As long as I can allow my structural guys to get started, they'll be happy, and then we'll talk about colors. Any other questions I can answer?
I had one question. So as we're looking at the picture of where the sculpture is going to go, cars are going to be coming down the street. If one happens to go astray, it looks like it would be able to drive right into the sculpture.
At
So
this
how do we
point,
protect it?
yeah, at this point, that may be a concern. We can always put a bollard or something
Yeah.
like that there. I think that would probably be,
Yeah.
something we'd want to look into doing possibly.
Yeah, because it's really only, like 5 or 6 feet off the road?
Yeah. Well, it would be, the width of the sidewalk there is pretty good. The normal width of that sidewalk is about 10 feet, and when it makes that turn like that, it actually gets
Yeah.
a little bit wider because of the radius. So it's probably more like 12 or so. But still, I understand your point. I think we should do something like that.
Yeah, how old is that sculpture, by the way?
I believe it's 1920s, possibly.
Really?
It's a Gaetano Federici,
Oh.
so we get the name accurate. I think it's from the 20s or 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very old.
Yeah, I'm concerned putting it even at the ground level of anybody kind of vandalizing it. And if it's that important to us, can we put it someplace so that it can't be necessarily fingered and whatever else? I don't know, just wonder how you guys think about that.
First, I feel like we've been traveling with this piece since we dug it out of the leaves 4 years ago, so it's a while now. I think the beauty of the piece is that people actually see it and appreciate it. It's just beautiful. So when you put it over a doorway and you have the proper entablature, if you will, I think you certainly have an impact with that. I don't know if that could work.
I think we have that opportunity. I mean, in this instance, it could go even in that middle section, or, you know, we've been talking about artwork. I don't know, I know you all have had some conversations about what that might be. But yeah, I think we could definitely, if we wanted to raise it, we could. We're showing an awning here because, again, we have this entry point. So, you know, we're thinking that you don't want to have things like rain and all blowing in here. So we feel like we need that awning. If we put that sculpture above that, then it's not as visible. You'll have to really stand back to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I actually just, I hear what Councilwoman Walsh, her concerns, and I hear Councilman Boyd's concerns, but I so love it there because I think it really is at that eye level that people really will have the opportunity to appreciate that piece of art. And having a plaque certainly highlights the history of the piece. So I happen to like it there, but I guess we could work out how
No, I like
to
it there
protect
too. I'm just concerned that if a car went astray, it's gonna drive right into it.
Yeah, so maybe that's something we just
Like
have
if we
to
could
do
get
on
the bollards at the corner.
Yeah, the bollards would work. I mean, that could actually really be a nice look too around there, so.
Yeah, just to protect it.
Yeah.
Is that photograph accurate of the current condition of the statue, of the sculpture?
No, that's not it. That's a,
No,
That's
that's
not
the, I think that's one we cleaned up,
that's a
actually.
copy.
No,
that's not,
that-
that's another one. That's not ours.
I don't know,
Yeah, that's
we
actually
have,
not ours.
No.
yeah, I don't know, we received this from somewhere. It
Ours
was
is
cleaned
more-
up. I know it was in the leaves at one point, and then it kind of got taken out and cleaned off a little bit.
Yeah, so we had some of the moss and stuff was cleaned off, and then we had the toe. We have a couple of small pieces that just have to be restored, but with that, I think is in the process, we'll get that done. I actually had a question. Let me go back to the north, the east elevation and the north elevation. So this is a big structure, and the structure to the north is, I guess that's Pearl Restaurant, and it's a fairly low building. Maybe it's 2 stories, there's an apartment upstairs. So if this appears to be about maybe 37 feet, is that the top on it?
It
And
will
then-
be, yeah, it'll be actually almost 45.
Okay, so I wasn't, I'm started to add up, but, right, with the corner piece, so I'm sorry, thank you. And then on the other side, on the east elevation, the property next to that is, again, it's a lower building.
Yes.
Now, I know there's, you know, the vanishing point on that as you look back, but if you're driving, if you're heading west, coming toward that building, you're going to see this unattractive, kind of factory-like look. And if you're traveling south on Broad toward the structure, again, you'll have that visual. So I just wonder, do we get to do a mock-up of some kind of a treatment to the point where it vanishes, where you no longer see that?
So that may be a concern on the east, but that's a tighter, that's 10 feet, because we're picking that be 10 feet. It's actually 10'4", so we're setting that dimension. So there may be some moment when you can see a little bit of that. On the north, it actually is our intent. So if you see there at column line 1, that first section, which is more of a darker gray,
I see that.
we're intending that be that stone pattern would continue around the corner, because we actually feel the same, that you'll see somewhat down that, because that's an alley, so it's a little wider there, and there's a
It's
side.
wider, and
Yeah.
so the wideness of that driveway actually creates a distance, a greater distance for your vanishing point. So I see that you had that treated a little bit differently than the other side, so I just wonder if that's something that we should be looking at, just so we don't have that factory effect
Right.
barreling toward us.
It's certainly something that we could do for a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we could probably make some kind of treatment there.
Just to pretty it
We'll
up,
look
I
at
mean,
that.
it just needs to
Yeah,
look a
absolutely.
little bit
We can
more,
look at that.
less, I guess, less factory-like. Okay. Let me just
To address your comment about the restaurant to the north and a couple of those retail shops to the north, we've looked at that. We think that if you are standing on Ridgewood, across the streets on the north side of Ridgewood, it's possible that you may see the top coping of that wall.
Right.
But because of your sight lines, we don't think you're gonna see a lot of that building from Ridgewood, so,
Yeah, no, I agree, we just have to at least address that.
yeah.
Okay, and then, let's see. I don't know if anyone else has.
Yeah, I have a quick question. The changes you're making, is that going to affect the cost at all?
Well, that's something that our team is discussing.
Uh-huh.
And so what we're trying to do is do as much of this design work, as I mentioned earlier, as much as we can with the concrete itself. We're buying the concrete. We are probably making the concrete a little more expensive, but it's a less expensive way to have a design impact than it would be if we were to add things onto the face of the concrete.
So once you've kind of figured all this stuff out, you're going to have a revised cost for this? Is that what you're thinking?
I don't want to speak for Bill, but at this point,
Is it going to,
we think we're working within our budget right now.
okay, that's all I want to know.
I get. Bill is demanding. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I just need you to come to the microphone, please, thanks.
Can we just, I'm sorry, were you done, Jeff?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm finished
Can
with my
we just
question.
go back to that corner treatment one more time with the Federici? That- I don't know about anyone else, but I kind of feel like that above in that art area, and I don't know what the cost involved here is, so it's just a visual thing. I almost feel like it needs to be a relief of like the village seal or something, and because I think that the artwork piece could be, you know,
Yeah,
kind of, yeah, I think you might lose it, and we might not be able to actually maintain something like that, but as I'm looking at it, because of just the way you've designed it, and it's absolutely beautiful, it's magnificent, but I feel like just as we have that Federici going up right dead center, if we had just a really nice relief of the village seal there and kept that a kind of a monotone look, still might actually enhance the appearance too. Yeah, I think it kind of speaks to government building. Is that okay? No. All right, I'm good.
Were you going to come up and,
Sorry, Bill,
yeah, answer the question?
You may forget.
Yeah.
So this has been a real collaborative effort back and forth with all of us on maintaining the budget and still delivering a quality product. And it's taken a little bit longer than we thought. We're still on schedule, as I said, but it's been a lot. Mike's done a lot of work. You're seeing a couple sheets here. There's 10 times as many of these that have gone back and forth. And, you know, the project has a guaranteed maximum price, but within there's a contingency. And there's going to be things that are going to cost more than we anticipated, and things that are going to cost less. And we're going to work back and forth, totally open book, with the village to get you the product within that guaranteed maximum price.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
I just want to make sure everyone's okay with what they've drawn, because from here, they're going to go forward based on you not making any more comments. So, you know, we can't make changes once they move forward, because they're going to have to go to the precast. So if you have comments, now's the time to do it. Please, please.
And just to replace artwork with a seal, that's easy, no brainer. so.
Got it.
You know,
I
totally
understood.
fine. To address the corner, yeah, that's something we'll take a look at, but again, I can cut my guys loose, and we can still work on that, so this should be fine.
So I'll just add, the evolution of this design it really has come a long way from where we were, and I appreciate all the work on this. It is really just beautiful, so thank you.
Yeah, I'd also like to echo those comments. Thank you. The work is, it's excellent. It looks like it's going to be quality, and, you know, you could, as far as I'm concerned, there are some details we could go back and forth with, and it's been a great collaborative effort between things that you suggested, things from the Historic Preservation Commission, things from the community, from us, so it's been a really great working relationship right now, and I'm happy with the product that we have, so I'd like to see you guys move forward and structurally design it.
Any comments?
No?
I tell you, if we had gone into construction mode based on what the previous version has become in this presentation, I would have been happy. You know, what you guys have added on there in terms of the visual accents, I think it just makes it absolutely work. And I don't want to jinx it, but you know, even the color of the awning, I think we were talking about it before. I like the blue. I think the blue looks great.
I do too.
Yeah.
And blue is the official color of the Village of Ridgewood, along with gold. I just want to point that out.
It is.
No, a lot of people think it's maroon. Yeah, well, we have the Pantone color, so we can get the exact
Blue
shade
and
now.
white is the RHS color.
RHS color.
That
Navy is
Pantone
welcome.
number
Yeah,
on
the navy color is welcome.
Right. Yeah, so we got the colors right. Great. Good.
No, looks great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we thank
Thanks.
you, and you can continue based on the discussion tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. So our next presentation is Dylan Hanson, our Director of IT, who's going to give us some website updates. I know that we've had some comments on the village website, and we're trying to make it easier, a lot cleaner, and so he's going to show us what he's come up with, and we're open to comments and questions, and so I'll let Dylan take it from here.
Right. Where'd the mayor go?
Are you going to the before one first?
What?
Are you going to go to the before one first?
I'm gonna go to the before one first.
Okay, current, I should say, not the
Current.
before one, the current.
Do you wanna wait for the mayor, or should we just go?
That's
Our
not the
current
current.
one.
Go to the
What we have
current.
now.
Sorry.
Oh, the colors are blue.
What?
You changed all the colors.
Yes.
Hey, we're not maroon and white anymore. Nice.
Do we wanna wait for him, or
So
should we
this is
start?
go ahead.
All right, good evening, everyone. Since we launched this website, we've had a couple of comments, positive, negative, and everything in between. So this past year, we've been working on upgrading it to a more usable format, but while retaining the same data that we currently have in it, because we do have a lot of history of data that's been archived through it, so you could search for articles all the way back from 2012, I believe. So it's good to have all that information on hand. So what I wanted to do was to update the website to a newer format and also to a newer layout that's more friendly. One of the things that we've noticed was a lot of people use the buttons down here. Right now they're just pretty much jumbled up in one area. They were up on the side of the change your picture over here, but somebody made a recommendation to access the agendas and minutes a lot more easier by going to the exact specific committee or council, and when you click on these, it will actually bring you right to the current council. I'll click on the council meeting, and it will bring up the agendas and minutes for that. So here's our current one for tonight, and then we have the years past right here. So that was a new module that was created in the past month and a half, and we've launched. So what we did was we started to design a new website, and a newer template, I should say, and this was with a lot of assistance from the deputy mayor. We came up with a new logo, and we changed the colors to the blue and gold from the flag from behind Councilman Seaton. That's our town colors. So we tried to match those as best as possible within the logo and within the backdrop of the picture. We kept the agendas and minutes on the right here, and then we created all new buttons down here that will contain, that will bring you direct links to the most popular parts of the website. So we have agendas and minutes directly, which is the full group and all current meetings, but up here you can go directly to, oops, I didn't mean to drop down the menu. You can go right to the council, village council, shade tree, what is this one? Citizen Safety Advisory Committee, and I'm going to expand all the other ones like React, I'm going to spell out, and everything else, and CBDAC. So those will be also changed by tomorrow as well, but then we also have forms, we have parking, general code, which is the town code, My Village Services, which is heavily used. That gives people updates on when their garbage goes out, light leaf pickup, so we do, that gets used very much. We've actually been running that, app for about 13 years, and there's many surrounding towns that would like to have it too. Community Pass, we have employment opportunities. SDL is the portal app for building permits. Ridgewood Water, VOR TV, which is all the streaming videos of all the council meetings. Current projects was a new category that was that we thought up of, and this would be anything such as the parking garage, the Shedler projects, any big projects that are going on. We want to create a page that people can go to and find out, get updates on all these different projects and keep them up to date. This one's to pay your taxes online. Sign up for alerts. This is to sign up for SwiftReach and what's the other? Oh, and our e-notices. As of today, we have almost 5,000 registered people on e-notice. It's a great tool. I recommend other people to sign up that haven't signed up. We tried to do a notice month and a half on updates on the village. It comes from the manager, so we try to do those often, especially around holidays. Here, we're going to do a direct link to all the departments and also to the boards and committees. Over here, we have all our emergency services websites. So you have the police department, fire department, EMS, and OEM. Below that, we kept the latest news and announcements down here as well, and upcoming events, our Burbio calendar, the property tax savings program, and our Twitter feed. We can add on to these. These are all modules. We can move them around. It's all a drag and drop website, so we can modify any of this very easily now, whereas there was a lot of coding involved in the beginning. So right now, this is a template. None of these are currently active, so if I click on them, they're not going to bring me anywhere. But once we decide on that we like this as a home page, we can move forward and I can adapt it to the other pages. Any questions, comments?
Thank you, Dylan. I appreciate this because you know, I've heard things about the usability of the website for a while, so this is a great step forward. Just one comment I might make for the spatial data logic portal, if you could also maybe put underneath that like building permits or building department or something like that, just so somebody who's trying to look for a quick permit or access to that doesn't have to try and figure out what SDL portal is. So just, I mean, you could keep that and just put building permits or something like that. I mean, I don't know how easy.
Yeah, I could put building permits under it, and I was thinking about the same thing with general code because a lot of people don't know that's our local ordinances as well, that we got a comment on that recently.
Yes, we did.
And then you can put like local, like general code and local ordinance or village ordinances underneath it. But yeah, everything else, I mean, I think everything looks good, and you know, I hope once it goes live, it's much easier to use, which it seems like it will be. So thank you again. Thanks for bringing us to this point.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so I would second Councilman Seaton's suggestion, is to spell out a lot of the stuff so it makes it kind of understandable, user-friendly. This is what it really is, as opposed to some of the acronyms you're using here. Other than that, I think it's great. Yeah, much better.
The mobile version is going to look a little different than this, because we don't want like this picture to pop up on the mobile version, because it's going to take up a lot of real estate, so it's going to jump directly to the buttons. So, and we do have, these websites tell us what type of devices people connect to, and we do have, every year it gets larger and larger. Mobile devices are the prime choice for people connecting to the websites.
So the only comment that I'll make, and although I love the look of our building, would that picture scroll? Because I feel like if somebody's coming onto our site, I'd prefer that you scrolled some pictures so that they could see other things in Ridgewood as opposed to just, because if they're looking at just the building, it's just a building. If they're new, you could do, you know, like a nice fall picture of Van Nest and, you know, or even a fall picture of Graydon, or a winter picture, you know, from the view, or, you know what I mean? Just so that it's not just a picture of a building that.
Like more appealing, something that shows the community, not so much just the main focus of the building.
Maybe you're looking to move here. Yeah, and it looks a little,
Yeah.
So if it was just if it was maybe, you know, you had 20 pictures that just scrolled, including that one, but it would show other, you know.
I mean, I can develop a box that goes in here with a scrolling picture similar to the original website, and we can use that as a scrolling picture of multiple things. And then we can always use it in the future if we do want to put up like an alert or something in that sense. We can publish it within that window.
So where would that box be located?
It would overtake this area.
Okay, so instead of the map, you mean?
We can actually make this one of the pictures and fill up this whole entire area with the box, and then we can have it scroll through multiple pictures.
Because I just wanted to make one comment. I was just wondering, like, where we have early sign up for Graydon, where would we put that?
Right now, that would be down here with
At
the
the
latest
bottom.
news.
Okay, okay. I didn't know if we wanted it at the top, because it's very visual at the top, and I don't know if we can still do something like that. That's just my question.
So if somebody is, if images are scrolling, so you said it, say, for like 2 seconds or 3 seconds, whatever your slide timing is, somebody could actually click on a picture. Somebody can click in that, right?
Then you can click it and you can make it linkable.
So you can make it linkable. So if you can make it linkable, even though you have sign up for Graydon on the bottom, you could actually have an image of Graydon and have text on it that says sign up for Graydon, splash of a summer, whatever, and then somebody clicks on that and it brings them to sign up for Graydon. Can we?
Yes.
Yeah, like the train station could link to.
Right, or you can, right, so you can, on those pictures, so each of those pictures gets assigned a link.
Yeah, we can do, and we can even connect it to, like for the holiday lighting, we can connect it to the event on the calendar.
Got it. So that's something, okay, all right, good, okay. So just, we need pictures.
We need a lot of pictures.
We have photos, they'll need photos. And then I guess the question is, what's the number of photos? Because first we have to know that presumably most people are using mobile devices. Now, there must be you must know through analytics how many people are accessing through mobile, how many, do you know that? Or do you get that breakdown?
I can run a query on it with
So the question then is, if somebody comes, they log on to a website, there's only a certain number of images that somebody's going to see or visually wait for. So there must be a number that everybody would be comfortable with. I don't know. I mean,
well, what would happen would be, with down here in the picture, there would be little dots, and it would scroll and highlight that dot, so people would know there was more pictures afterwards.
Right.
Now, does any of the redesign impact the organization of the drop-down menu? Is it still going to be the same?
Well, that's the one thing I wanted to go over. I wanted to try to match a lot of the menus to the surrounding communities, because what people are going to do, especially if people from out of town and they go on to Paramis's website or Glenrock's website, they have their menus pretty much similar to each other. So they have a drop down for departments, a drop down for the boards and committees, visiting your town and stuff. So I want to try to mimic a lot of those and try to make it so if somebody goes to Paramus first and they come to ours, they're going to say, oh, it's probably located in the same spot because it's a municipal website. So I do want to modify a lot of the upper menus on how they link into the. I don't want people to dig so deep to try to find that information. I want them to try to get it as quickly as possible.
Dylan, on those buttons, when on this 15, now are those organized in a way that are like the most popular up front? Is that how you've organized them? Because you obviously would know how many people go to general code versus the SDL portal or community pass. So are they organized by frequency of use?
I did not do that. I was thinking of doing that based off of our current website. I can get that analytic and then place them that way, or we can also place them in alphabetical order.
Oh, yeah, I guess either way, right, okay.
I would think use would be helpful. I think that's a good idea.
Which way?
Use.
Frequency of use. Yeah,
Correct.
I mean, I would think.
Yeah.
Okay. And I thought I had, so Dylan, just, I thought earlier I saw those, village council and then planning board, I thought those were in a different order earlier.
Which ones?
When you go down, scroll back up. Right, yeah, you see where you have the shade up on, yeah, I'm pointing to this thinking you can see me pointing over here.
I modified the order of them on the current website. I thought it would trickle down. It didn't. So
Oh, okay.
I created a second menu map
in a
here.
different order, okay.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll have village council, planning board, zoning board of adjustment, and then boards and committees probably alphabetical.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, then historic preservation,
Oh,
then
right.
shade tree.
Right.
And then we also have
Alphabetical.
to create categories for the other boards and committees that are not listed as well.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Okay, I appreciate, thanks, Dylan. I know this took a lot of time with coding and everything, so thank you for doing this, and hopefully we'll see this live in a few weeks. That would be great.
All right, and I'll see you guys in a couple more agenda. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, the next item is discussion for Ridgewood Water. The first one is a emergency purchase of a truck, our current water department tandem truck. The chassis on the truck is twisted, and so it's unsafe to drive. A new replacement vehicle would cost in the mid $200,000 range and take up to a year for delivery. We have been able to find a slightly used vehicle available from Hudson County Motors. It actually was dropped off at our Fleet Services garage. The water department looked at it as well as the Fleet Services garage. It has 6,000 miles on it. It's available for $169,000. And it has an extended warranty that has 4 years and 8 months remaining. So it's kind of like a certified pre-owned vehicle almost. It's necessary to complete distribution repairs both on a regular and emergency basis. It's utilized to haul excavation spoils, backfill materials, and asphalt. Mr. Calby is recommending the emergency purchase of the 2017 Volvo VHD dump truck in the amount of $169,000, and we do have the money in the water utility capital budget.
I just wanted to say, this is a really good find. I mean, it's a Volvo truck, it's last year's edition, it's fully loaded, and, I was reading all the specs and everything on it, and it was a demo, so, they really took care of it, and it's pretty great that a little less because it's a demo, and people are just driving it around the track. That's pretty good. So, I mean, that's a great way to replace that truck and get it on the road much quicker and much less expensive.
I agree. It's a great idea. Our next item under Ridgewood Water is awarding state contract for Granger. We have a resolution for the purchase of materials and supplies under the National Joint Powers Alliance, which is a cooperative purchasing contract. It's for facilities, maintenance, repair, and operating related supplies, and also public safety related equipment and supplies, accessories, and services. We've exceeded the original resolution amount of $50,000, and we're asking for an additional $20,000 to continue purchasing these items. Okay, the next item is under budget, awarding an additional contract for the paving. We, as you know, we received bids in March, and we awarded them, and it was to J.A. Alexander out of Bloomfield, New Jersey. At this point, Mr. Redesauser is requesting an additional award for work covered by the recently received NJDOT grants, one for Hillcrest Road, the other one for North Pleasant Avenue, and that's in the amount of $300,000. The next item is awarding a professional services contract for the odor control system removal at the water pollution control facility. Suburban Consulting Engineers has been hired. They've been diligently working to address the notice of violation for our inoperable odor control system at the village's water pollution control facility. Suburban has petitioned NJDEP for the removal of the odor control system because we actually have no strong odor from the facility, and we no longer need the non-working odor control system because otherwise we have to upgrade or replace it. And so they're working with DEP to get that approval to just remove it. In order to continue their work and close out the permits with NJDEP, we need an additional award of $5,250. They've provided excellent service in the goal of removing the odor control system, and again, it's going to save us a lot of money in not trying to replace or repair it. Okay. The next one is the annual resolution for hiring a pediatrician for our Child Health Conference for 2019. Mr. Trullo, the health director, went out for 8 quotes from physicians. Dr. Naruki, who has been working in the clinics for 10 years, submitted a proposal as well as next medical staffing on behalf of a physician who is not currently licensed in New Jersey. It is required by law that physicians be licensed in New Jersey, so therefore the recommendation is to continue with Dr. Naruki. His fee is $175 per hour. It's a $5 increase per hour from last year. This is a shared service with Glen Rock and Fairlawn, and each town will pay no more than $1,950 each. And the clinics are run approximately 2 to 3 hours per month, and they're held 10 months out of the year. The next item is a annual resolution again for the Valley Hospital Department of Community Health, Public Health and Nursing Services. This is for communicable disease investigations, child health clinics, adult health clinics, school audits, and flu clinics. The cost to the village is $11,853.01. It's a 2% hourly increase for the nursing hours from last year. Valley Community Health actually bills us for the hours used, and in the previous years, it's averaged around $10,000. They also provide health education services, which includes things like our weight loss challenge that we do annually, as well as the Wellness Festival, and they also present various required programs throughout the year at no charge to the village. The next item is the shared services agreement with Fairlawn and Glen Rock for the Child Health Clinic, and this is, again, we'll split the cost of the Child Health Conference physician 3 ways. Ridgewood bills Glen Rock and Fairlawn for 1/3 of the invoice, billed by the pediatrician. Glen Rock has done the shared service with us for 10 years, and Fairlawn, this is their 3rd full year with us. The next one is award of contract underground fuel storage tank. The NJDEP inspected the village's underground storage tank facility, which is up by the garage. It provides fuel for our vehicles and equipment. The village received a notice of violation based on a number of items. So we had already contracted with Betts Environmental and Alternative Fuels to correct the installation of the new fuel pumps. We asked them to examine the underground storage tank facility. They identified 2 areas of violations. The first area of concern is the wiring conduit for the village's tank monitoring system. The existing conduit containing the wiring has corroded and needs to be replaced. along with the wiring and sensors. And this estimate for this work is $38,400. The second estimate is to tightness test the tank sumps. The estimate does not include any necessary repairs. The estimated cost for this testing is $2,400. So the total preliminary cost to address the notices of violation is $40,800. Therefore, Mr. Ruthershauser is recommending an award of contract to Betts Environmental and Alternative Fuels from Butler, New Jersey as an emergency award to avoid an NJDEP fine. The next one is...
Heather, can I ask a question?
Sure. Yep.
So how often do they inspect that facility?
This was an inspection that we weren't expecting. They showed up, and they decided to do an inspection. I don't know how often they do show up, so
Yeah.
I can find that out for you if you wish.
Yeah, I'm just, it worries me a little bit is that, that some of these issues, I'm just concerned that it may get worse over time. It's going to cost us more and more and more for, I don't know how long has it been there?
The fuel tanks?
The
For
fuel
a long time. I mean, we've had the garage, those are the fuel pumps, those are actual, like gas
Yeah,
pumps.
yeah.
They've been up there decades.
They have?
Yeah.
Okay. And the tanks themselves, what are they made of? Are they made of steel or what? Don't know?
I don't know, I can answer, I can find those answers for you.
Yeah, I'm just worried if they corrode or anything like that.
Well, we do, again, I think there's one here that's for the tightness test, some tightness test, and I believe, I actually know that we did have leaking tanks way back in the early 90s.
Oh.
Actually late 80s, because it went down into houses on Oak Street.
Oh.
And we ended up purchasing a house there. And so that was all cleaned up, the tanks were replaced, and they were, and then we eventually did sell the house. We had test monitoring wells for many, many years.
We did?
And then,
Okay.
so,
Oh, well. Okay.
okay?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, and DEP just tends to come to Ridgewood for many of our facilities, there, Lakeview, all different areas, and just sees if we're doing things in compliance or sees if there are issues. So by making these improvements, we will not subject ourselves to a fine.
Yep.
Okay, the next item is purchase of cameras and HD broadcasting of village council meetings. I was at a Northwest Bergen Administrator Managers meeting a couple months ago, and MAWA was hosting, and they indicated that they had recently purchased cameras and have broadcasting of their meetings through a company called Swagit. It's out of Texas, and if you look on page 6, a few pages in, it shows you the camera. It's very small. It actually goes up onto the walls. It's attached to the walls. And then currently both MAWA and Fairlawn in this area use this product. So what I was going to do is have Dylan bring up just a couple of short clips of some of their meetings so that you can see what their meetings look like. So this is Fairlawn. And so what they do, it can be streamed. In addition, what's really great, which I find wonderful, is that we'll send our agenda to them about an hour before the meeting. They will then, by the next day, sync our agenda to the video. So you can click on an item and it'll bring it up, the video of that part of the meeting. And I know sometimes we have to search for something that was said or something that was discussed, and we're trying to figure it out, and we're like going back and forth on the scroll. This will be very, very helpful, both for, I know, the municipal clerk's office, my office, as well as the council, if you're looking for something that, you know, was discussed previously. So the proposal is for a remotely managed networked camera system, and it's capable of being controlled locally as well. It will be designed to support streaming, public access channels, and recording to media. You have equipment installation and subscription. Equipment provide us with the capabilities of recording and streaming in high definition. The cameras are motorized, they'll pan, tilt, zoom, they'll be remotely controlled by Swagit for scheduled meetings and can be controlled locally for special unscheduled meetings. And then there are 3 different plans. They base it on the number of meetings that you have. So it's a 25 meeting, 50 meeting, or 75 meetings. We, I think, would need to go with the 50 meetings because just with our regular meetings alone, we have 32. And like, for example, this past year, we had extra meetings for the water rate, meetings. What happened actually in Mawa, they started with just the governing body meetings, and within a month decided they wanted to add their planning and zoning board. And as you do additional meetings, it's not like from 25 to 50, the cost doesn't double. It actually is less than that because it's economies of scale. So the 3 camera setup is $41,690 yearly. 50 meetings is $16,500. And just as a comparison, we do have our TV technicians here who we've had for a very long time, and they do a great job. And they run approximately $10,000 to $11,000 a year. So it's a little more, but the capabilities of it are incredible. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else. Oh, and this is through a cooperative purchasing system, which is called TIPS, which is out of Texas. And so we're going to join that cooperative purchasing system so that we can then purchase this, and we do have money allocated that we can use to purchase this. So I don't know how soon they can come in. It'll probably not be up and running till after the first of the year, but certainly it's something that's exciting. I don't know if you could show maybe Mawa's, and if you just take a quick look at it so you can kind of get a flavor of what it's going to look like. Maybe fast forward it a little. There we go. So as you can see, they actually put the name of the person speaking on the dais under it, almost like a newscast. When they get to the public portion, they put a little banner under it saying public portion. There's also something called sound search. So if you're looking for something, let's say, about water, you'll put in the sound search, you'll put in the search bar water, and it'll actually show you all the sound bites that include that word. And so you can queue it up, you'll click on it, it queues it up a few seconds before that word is stated, and so it's a really interesting feature to use. So I thought it was wonderful. Mawa highly recommends it, as does Fairlawn. So I'm hopeful that you're in favor of it as well.
Are they using the soft filter?
And the lighting, we're getting new lighting too.
Actually, all the cameras are high-definition cameras.
Yeah, no, I know.
So,
Got
and the other thing too is the equipment, the main base, it can be also manually operated. So if we do have a meeting that's not scheduled, that we could still broadcast it ourselves. One of the devices I also put in there after we talked to the vendor is for the streaming to YouTube, so we can still maintain our YouTube channel as well on top of their local cloud service that they offer. The other thing also is there will be a tie-in from the TVs up here, so there'll be a presentation. So we have a presentation like we've had today, we can actually have it directly on the TV, so it would be a lot clearer. Right. Also, with this, we can, with our fiber loop that we have, we can get a portable unit from another vendor, and we can actually broadcast from any building in the village at any time. So if we have a budget meeting downstairs, we'll be able to broadcast that on the public access channels as well.
So Dylan, just remind me, that it's possible that I misremember something. Weren't there parts on these cameras or equipment that were no longer available, and so that was in the long run going to cost us as well? Is that, it's a while ago, so you could refresh my memory.
A while ago, Cablevision gave us these cameras, and we used to go through them for repairs on them, so if we needed a new lens or cabling or parts or any type they would get it for us. And a couple of years ago, they said, we can't get you parts for these cameras anymore, so. They're antiques, but they work.
So
They've
Dylan,
held their own.
the cameras would be fixed in
Fixed,
certain
so there'd be
locations?
no more wires ran, there would be no,
Yeah, but you'd put them on the, facade or whatever else, that's where they'd go?
yeah, we'd have one back there to target here, we'd put one somewhere in this area to target the person at the podium.
Right.
And then we put one more.
Okay.
Just as we're doing this, where do we stand with our sound system? Because one of the chief complaints that everybody has is that even at home, people just can't understand what we're saying.
We have good news about that, too.
Yeah, well, I talked to the vendor, they gave me the tech specs of the unit for this, and then I had, just recently I had a company come in here about the video equipment and the sound equipment, and we have a sound engineer coming hopefully this week, if not early next week. What I'm going to do is currently we have a fixed microphone station where you can only control the volume of each mic. We're going to replace that with a soundboard, similar to like what they have at concerts and everything. So this way we can also control the echo. There's a bunch of different features, and we can filter out any feedback. And that's our main problem right now. If we turn up the volume just a little bit more than what it is right now, you'll get that high-pitched ring. So with a soundboard, we'll be able to filter that out. So I do have a sound engineer coming in to make sure everything's compatible. I did talk to Swagit. The soundboard I'm looking at is compatible with their equipment as well, and we can directly plug in, and it hopefully will alleviate a lot of the issue.
What's the cost of fixing the audio in here?
I'm hoping with just the the soundboard and a couple of pieces, I'm looking at probably in the realm of between $5,000 to $6,000. And then I'm also going to replace all these mics as well, and the ones that are currently not working, sure, we'll take back and refurbish them and fix them and send them back to us.
So you said 6,000 to fix the sound?
To fix the sound equipment back there, yes. Because we recently purchased a new amp, so that's in great shape. The soundboard will replace the equalizer and the gain control.
Thanks.
We'll have a resolution for this for the 28th, a public meeting on the 28th.
Okay, can we fix the sound system first, though?
No, that's going to be fixed
We're moving
first.
forward. Okay.
After we heard about the Swagit, I want to make sure everything was compatible before I ordered it, instead of getting it and sending it back and being stuck in that.
Because I think the residents would be more upset if we buy all this video equipment and then we haven't fixed the sound.
So the next item is under policy, regulations for temporary storage containers. Our planner, Brigitte Bogart, has given us some draft information about temporary storage containers, regulations to limit the location and duration of the temporary storage containers, and requiring a permit. Right now, the recommendation is, again, this is a draft, an initial period of 30 days, and then it may be renewed for no more than 2 additional 30-day periods. Pods shall be placed only in the driveway, not located in the right-of-way, and it should not obstruct sidewalks. No pod shall be located within 10 feet of a property line. Pods shall be set back minimally 10 feet from principal buildings. Pods shall not be larger than 150 square feet in area. No signage other than signage containing the name, address, and telephone number of the person or entity in the business of renting the pod. There shall be no more than 1 sign attached to any side of a pod. No sign shall be larger than 50% of the area. Both our zoning officer and code enforcement officer have reviewed these recommendations, and they are recommending a maximum, actually, of 3 months. They think, 6 months. They think 3 months is too short, so it may be a 3-month application with a renewal of 3 months. A lot of times people use these temporary storage containers if they're going to move and they want to clear some things out so they can show the house, or if they're doing renovations. Realistically, 6 months is even a short period of time. We may also have something where if it needs to exceed 6 months, it would be taken on a case-by-case basis. They also recommend that they've indicated that the fact that the draft says no pod shall be located within 10 feet of a property line, some of the driveways in the village are right up to the property line. So we really can't have that kind of a setback. Another issue may be the signage, because the pods have signage already, and many times it's on all four sides. So we really can't regulate that, I don't think. What I was going to suggest is that Bridget and myself and, maybe Tommy Aka, the building department director, and Chris and Tracy and Paula from the building department sit down with Bridget and kind of go over these concerns and come up with a more workable proposal. And we can either discuss it in December, or if not, in January, so that we can move forward. I did provide you also with a picture of a current pod, and obviously this particular one is on the front lawn. This is something we would try to avoid if we could, because of the fact that it's not, it is unsightly, and if it's going to be there for several months, we don't allow parking on the front lawn. I don't think we really want pods, temporary storage units on the front lawns. So if it's all right with you, if you have comments now, let me know. But if not, then we'll sit down and come back with a better crafted ordinance. Is that good? Okay.
Yeah, very good.
All right, the next item is from Dawn Citrullo, our health director. She would like to license hair and nail salons within the village. Licensing on a local level would allow annual inspections. It would be sure that we're protecting the public's health. The New Jersey Board of Cosmetology also licenses them, and they also conduct an initial inspection. But oftentimes 5 years can go by before they inspect again. So we'd like to make sure that people who come to Ridgewood and use a nail salon or a hair salon, that they are being licensed on an annual basis. It details outline of definitions, license requirements, frequency of inspections, sanitation procedures, hand washing procedures, bathroom requirements, and lighting requirements, and it pertains to barbershops, beauty parlors, and nail salons. This would include all establishments engaging in hair removal, dyeing, cutting, shaving, or styling, as well as nail enhancement, to have a license within the village. Surrounding towns that do license are Paramus, Fair Lawn, Hackensack, Norwood. Their fees for the annual fees vary. Paramus, for instance, is $100. Norwood bases it on the number of stations. Fair Lawn also bases it on the number of stations. And so Ms. Citrullo is suggesting for our annual license, it would be $150 for 1 to 10 workstations, and then $200 for 11 or more workstations. So that would be a one-time annual fee. Again, this fee would help to pay for the inspection annually, and also the education. They also do an education component, so people who are working within these salons are educated as to the right way, to sanitize things, to, wash hands, things like that. If you do want more information, I could have Mr. Citrullo come up and speak about it. Come on up.
Good evening, everyone.
So, Dawn, I just, a couple of things. Does this include, I'm actually always surprised that we haven't had this in place for all along.
Yeah.
It always surprises me. But does this then include, like, threading stations?
It does. So anything that would be licensed under the Board of Cosmetology would fall under this. The threading stations are one of them. So we would do, but the inspection wouldn't be as intense because the equipment isn't as much.
Is that yours?
Oh, maybe it's my alarm. I'm sorry.
Just imagine if this were on Swag and then we had to go and
I know, it's actually 9:30. I'm wondering why I'm so tired.
Fall back here.
But yes, so it does.
All right, and then what about a salon, facials? Is that included?
Depending what they do there, probably not.
Okay.
Yeah, if they have a license under the Board of Cosmetology, then it would be something that we would
Got it.
inspect. Yeah, depending on what they're doing there.
So you're just basically going to mirror whatever the state regulations? Got it. Okay, good.
Basically, so years ago, I used to actually help out Fairlawn and do the inspections of the nail salons, and learned a lot through that. And the state always licensed them, and I was always under the assumption that they came out regularly. And we actually had a meeting, we had them come to our Bergen County health officers, and they had explained that they're down to the bare bones, they don't really get to come out, and they want us to do the licensing so we can get in there. And sometimes what happens is we'll get a complaint, and we'll go in, but we really don't have any jurisdiction there. We'll go in, we'll educate, we'll try to figure out what the problem is and work for it, because it will take the state months sometimes to come out on a complaint. So.
Okay, good. That's all I had.
So everyone's in favor?
Yeah.
And you're fine with the fee? Okay. So,
It looks like it's pretty, within a tight little range, right? I mean, it's not like it's...
it depends on the
I think
number
it's
of
manageable.
stations.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it looks
150, because also what it would cover is if we have to go back during the course of the year, say maybe we get a complaint there, that would cover that, because in the past, we had been going there and not getting anything for it. We would just go and you spend a lot of time, especially in the beginning. I think we'll be spending a lot more time till they get used to it.
Dawn, what type of complaints do you get? I'm just curious.
Infections. So we'll get a complaint that someone went and had, they cut their toe and now they have a staph infection. So we'll tell them, oh, you can go to the Board of Cosmetology. You have to send them a fax. It can take them a month to 3 months to come out. So what we try to do is just go out that day or the next day, and generally we'll find they're not using sanitizer properly. Like the one place I was going to, I won't mention it, they weren't using sanitizer. They were just using soap and cleaning out the footbeds. So they needed the education. That's one of the biggest ones, which is immediate. Hand washing, infestation of maybe flies. That happens in a lot of them, and basically we can just educate them how to clean the drains and how to prevent that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
So our last item is operations, our best practices. I'll have Mr. Rooney come up. As you know, annually, the state sends out this best practices worksheet, and we go through it and we answer the questions that they've asked. It's an annual checklist. It's given to all municipalities. Heather?
I think you skipped
D3. Sorry about that. I'll start again. Proposed stop sign, Fairmount Road at Upper Boulevard. Right now, there's a painted stop bar and tail without a stop sign. And so what Mr. Rosenhauser is recommending is an installation of the stop signs there so there's no confusion. This is a stop sign on Fairmount Road traveling east at Upper Boulevard. So, sorry. Okay, so now is the best practices. Annual checklist given out by the state to be followed by all local municipalities. The score received indicates the amount of state aid the village receives. We received a score 87%, which means no state aid is withheld. Under the law, we are required to discuss this at a village council meeting, and any questions or concerns about any of the questions that were asked, Bob Rooney can answer them, or I can. A lot of them are repeats from previous years, but every year they put in new questions. And there's a section actually on special development zones. We are not one of them, so we didn't have to answer that section of it this year. So, but it's always interesting to see the questions they come up with.
So just a little history. In 2016, we had 30 questions. 2017, we had 25.
Is your microphone on?
It's on.
Okay.
2018, we're up to 61. And as Heather said, it's basically, the increase is basically around development municipalities. So they identify a list of anyone, say a Garfield or something like that, that has a redevelopment area to address those questions in their responses. But currently, between the yeses and the perspectives and the not applicables, we're at 87% response. As of 4:30 today, the state came out with some guidance on some of these questions that are borderline, so they have suggested answers to them, such as perspective, which would allow the municipality to address any concerns that may be in question. So there might be a couple of these that are tweaked, but none of them will impact our final results.
Are there any questions? No. Okay.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the next item is a review of our public meeting agenda. As a reminder, our public meeting is on November 28th, not next week. And then our next two meetings will be December 5th and December 12th, and that'll be it for the year. So on November 28th, we have resolutions for Ridgewood Water, awarding contract under state contract, Granger Purchases, awarding contract under emergency purchase for a Volvo dump truck, award additional contract under state contract for chlorine water analyzers and supplies, establishing the interest rates for delinquent payments to the water utility for 2019 and setting a grace period, and accepting Ridgewood Water annual maintenance fee. Introduction of ordinances includes amending Chapter 145, the fees for the day camp, amending Chapter 145, fees for grade and pool, and membership fees, and tennis membership fees, amending Chapter 265, vehicles and traffic for stop signs at Claremont Road and Cantrell Road, amending Chapter 265, vehicles and traffic stop signs at Fairmont Road and Upper Boulevard, and then in addition, the one we just discussed is the licensing of the hair and nail salons, and also the amending the Chapter 145 fees for licenses for hair and nail salons. We have public hearings on amending Chapter 265 for vehicles and traffic, designating Fairfield Avenue as a through street, amending Chapter 265 for vehicles and traffic, establishing a stop intersection at driveway and parking prohibited on driveway into Irene Habernickel Family Park. We have the management salary ordinance, the non-union salary ordinance, amending Chapter 105, animals, poultry, and fowl, and amending Chapter 260, trees and shrubs. The resolutions are authorizing the village to join the interlocal purchasing system. This is the cooperative pricing system which Swaggart is under, awarding additional partial contract for road resurfacing and repairs for Hillcrest Road and North Pleasant Avenue. Again, that's to repay the grant money that we received. Awarding contract under Bergen County contract for rock salt. Awarding contract under the TIPS cooperative purchasing system for cameras and HD broadcasting of village council meetings. Award professional services contract software support for the finance department. That's an annual resolution. Awarding a professional services contract for engineering services for the removal of the odor control system at the water pollution control facility. Awarding professional services contract for the pediatrician for the monthly child health conference. Award professional service contract for Valley Hospital, Department of Community Health, Public Health and Nursing Services. Awarding emergency contract for repair and testing of underground fuel storage tank at the village garage. Approving shared services agreement for the Child Health Conference with Fairlawn and Glenrock. Approving the shared services agreement for the TV inspection of sanitary sewer mains. This is with Northwest Bergen County Utilities Authority. This is an annual resolution. Excuse me. Establishing an interest rate for non-payment of taxes and assessments. Also establishing interest rates for non-payment of other municipal liens. Establishing interest rates for delinquent payments for significant sewer discharger bills. Authorizing execution and filing of treatment works approval for the American Dream Estates in Washington Township, and reappointment of our chief financial officer. Do you want any of those off of the consent agenda? No? Okay.
That would go back to public comments.
Good evening, Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. With respect to your discussion tonight about the storage containers, as Ms. Maylander indicated, the business about putting them in driveways and maintaining a 10-foot distance between the adjacent property is not going to be possible. At least in my neighborhood, it's not going to be possible. My driveway happens to abut my neighbor's property immediately, and his driveway abuts mine immediately, and the same thing happens across the street. So, yes, that would need to be changed. But what I'm more concerned about is, are there any regulations with respect to these massive dumpsters? I'm wondering if that can be discussed at the same time the pods are discussed. It seems that there's some people who bring in these dumpsters and they're there for 6, 7, 8, 9 months. Empty, sometimes for months before people start putting things into them. They are more unsightly than the pods. At least the pods, for the most part, are painted very nicely. They're kept in good condition. Some of these dumpsters look really terrible. They're beat up, they're scratched, they have graffiti on them. So my concern would be more so initiating some sort of regulation with respect to those, or incorporating whatever regulations you're going to incorporate about the pods and include dumpsters in that same category, because they are absolutely getting out of control. As you know, there's a massive building, it seems, in Ridgewood. People who have 3-bedroom homes are converting them to 5-bedroom, 6-bath homes, and there seem to be dumpsters everywhere. I think on my block I count 4 or 5 that are in place right now alone. So if we can control the dumpsters, I think that's more important than controlling the pods. Concern about the regulations for hair and nail salons. I'm all for it, but my concern is unintended consequences. And by unintended consequences, I mean the health officer tonight indicated there's going to be some regulations with respect to bathrooms. How many nail salons might have to go out of business because they're unable to meet whatever regulations you're going to impose about the need for bathrooms? What brings this to mind very clearly is what's going on at La Bella Pizza. He has been out of business by his own choice for a number of years now, because when he wanted to get back into business, regulations had changed and he needed to have a restroom, I guess, on the first floor that was accessible to patrons. I don't know what the regulations are here that you're going to be proposing about restrooms, but I'm wondering if that might put some salons out of business because they can't afford the renovations that are going to be necessary to design these restrooms, to build these restrooms. So just unintended consequences that this might have. Just take a serious look that you might not be putting somebody out of business as a result of this, unless you're going to grandfather people that are already in business. And my last comment concerns the website, and this is not intended to be any disrespect to Mr. Hanson at all, but I've always wondered that this problem has been going on for a very long time. The council doesn't seem to hesitate spending money when it is necessary to spend money. Why haven't you hired a professional website designer to do this project? Again, no respect to Mr. Hanson, but that's not his primary skill. There are people who are in the business of designing websites. I've never had to engage their services. I don't know how much they cost, but it's my belief that it's not a lot of money. So if this continues to drag out and you continue to not get what you want, my suggestion would be to engage a firm of this type to come in and take a look at this, and maybe it can be done like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Could I just make a couple of comments? Sure. So just in a sample resolution, ordinance from other municipalities, basically as far as the toilet and sink facilities, what they're saying is it should be adequate toilet and hand washing facilities for both the staff and the patrons, that they shall be in working condition, that they shall have a soap dispenser and disposable towels or an air dryer. So it's very basic, just making sure that it's there. Most salons probably already have that. So I know what you're saying, and we'll look into that, and hopefully, I agree, that shouldn't put them out of business. So the other thing I do want to mention is a couple of years ago, there was a website designer who came in when we changed to the current design, and at that time, the quote given to us was $67,000, And then anytime we needed to upgrade the website, we would have to pay additional money. Or if we needed to post something, we couldn't post it internally, we'd have to send it to the company, and they charge a fee for that. So that was one quote. There may be other quotes out there, but that was our experience in the past.
So just real quick, Heather, when the current design, there was somebody that was brought in and paid on that design. What was uploaded on that midnight of 2015, someone was paid to help design that.
Right, I don't know what that cost was, though.
Yeah, but I remember that
Yes.
there was somebody that
Correct.
was a consultant that was retained to do that, so I just threw it in there.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that we can move forward with, I'm glad that, you liked it for the most part. Dylan will endeavor to get it done, as soon as we can, so that we can launch it, and I'm looking forward to having the new website. I think it's going to be a lot easier for people to navigate.
Yep.
So,
Be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood that the Village Council meet in closed session on November 7th, 2018 at 7:30 PM or as soon thereafter as the matter on the agenda can be reached, and that said closed session be held in the caucus room of the Ridgewood Village Hall, 131 North Maple Avenue, Ridgewood, New Jersey. Be it further resolved that the matters to be discussed in closed session are limited to legal matters to include affordable housing, PFAS, legal services proposal, Ridgewood Library, personnel matters to include Ridgewood Police Department. These matters are allowable under NJSA 10:4-12 at sec, and be it further resolved that the minutes of this meeting shall be made available to the general public when such matters have been deemed completed by resolution of the Village Council. I have a motion.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you.